Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Play AGEOD's Civil War game. Thanks for coming back. I learned in the first video how short 10 minutes is, so made a few decisions about how I'm going to proceed here. Uh, you'll notice here on the bottom of the screen there's a whole list of messages. These are all the messages the computer generated during the last inner turn. And usually when I'm playing this game, I go through all these lines and address what they all say. They describe the battles that occurred, some events that have occurred, maybe new units have popped up on the screen, maybe units have finished traveling like I told them to. And usually I go through this list and address what it all says, but that would be really dry for you guys, and I don't know if I could fit it all into 10 minutes. So what these videos are going to be are really the highlights of each turn and the decisions that I have to make and explaining the game mechanics along the way. So let's dive right into that. Here, in turn 2, one great thing that happened is this gentleman here appeared in New York City. So I get the opportunity to explain to you guys how these units work and how generals work. So you see, I click on New York, and down here we get these tabs, and in the rightmost tab is this general and a cavalry unit. These are the first units we get to move around the board, so it's pretty exciting. You can see I can move them over here. Up until now, everything has been locked, but now I can start to move things. So this tab's called a stack. It's quite important. It's stacks that we move around the board, and it's stacks that are going to be doing the fighting. If I move them over here and there's a Confederate unit over there and they run into each other, they could have a battle. That's when battles are going to occur. So it's stacks that do the moving and stacks that do the fighting. That's the first important thing to understand. So let's take a look at what we got in this stack. Let's start with the cavalry unit. This here is a unit. This is the cavalry regiment. If you look over here in this right tab, this line corresponds to the regiment. I can click on it, and you can see all these statistics about the regiment that I'm not going to describe right now. But they just, you can intuit what a cavalry regiment can do. It has some fighting strength. It has the ability to move around pretty quickly. It has the ability to scout pretty well. So that's the nature of this unit, this one cavalry regiment. Real quickly, if I go down here to Fort Monroe, I'll show you this unit. This is a locked unit right now, and it's an infantry brigade, and it's made up of 1, 2, 3 regiments. Unlike up there, the cavalry unit was made up of only 1 regiment. This unit's made up of 3. So you can have a whole bunch of regiments inside one of these units. Brigades usually don't get above 5, but later on we'll be able to create divisions that could have like 18 different things in them, and they'll all be listed here. So that's our little cavalry unit, our cavalry regiment here. And then we have a general. This is just one guy, General Schurz. And if I hover over him, you can see that there's his name, and below that it says he has a command rating of 311. I think it's useful at this point to look at those numbers. Those numbers stand for, from left to right, the strategic rating, the offensive rating, and his defensive rating. Now, the offensive and defensive numbers are sort of self-explanatory. When he goes into battle, he'll either be on the offense or the defense. And if his offensive rating is 1, so whatever stack he's in command of is going to be affected by the fact that he's only got a 1 in offense. The higher that number is, the better at offense a commander is. Those numbers don't get really higher than 6, by the way. So a commander with a 6 in offense or 6 in defense is really good at those things. The 3 needs a little more explanation. That is his strategic rating. And to explain that, briefly think about McClellan, General McClellan in the war. Abraham Lincoln was constantly trying to give him orders to move and get him to attack or get him to do something, and he was sort of not willing to do it. He sort of sat on his laurels a lot of the time, and that will be reflected in this game by a low strategic rating, like maybe a 1. And if you go look at McClellan, that's sort of what he has, I believe. Carl Schurz here has a 3, so he is middling. General Grant has a 6, so he's will be active more of the time and be able to do more things. We'll see that in effect later, but just think about that. Strategic rating is how cooperative and active the generals are. So I'm going to take this stack of general shirts in his cavalry regiment, and I'm going to move them over here to Harper's Ferry, which is a town in West Virginia that I'd like to defend. And I'm going to click this button, see move by rail, so we can move him there by rail, move him much faster. He'll only get there in 16 days now. The downside to moving him by rail is up here. It's going to use up some of my railroad capacity points, which I'll need to replenish at some point by going over here to the economics tab and purchasing some railroad capacity. So that's the basics of how units work. We'll get into command penalties a little bit later. We'll see them in the next few turns, and I'll explain it now, but I'm trying to keep this video short. The other big thing that happened, we have here a whole lot of generals. There are 1861 division generals that just popped up in Washington, D.C. And now I have the opportunity to move them around the board into places where I think they'll be used. So let me pause the video, and I'll do that so you don't have to be bored by my shifting these generals around. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. I can't wait to see what that little pause looks like. But I've given all these generals their orders to move to various places around the border. You might be in some suspense as to where I moved them. I'll have to leave you in suspense. And we'll get to all of them in turn, I assure you. So now the only thing left to do is to click End Turn, which I'm going to do now. And we'll watch all these guys move. Here, let me move the screen so you can see General Shirts in New York City start to move. And now we'll proceed to next turn and let everybody move. In the future, I think I'll be doing a lot of that, a lot of pausing the game and dealing with things and then coming back and letting you know what I did. Because sometimes I'll be, raising a whole bunch of new troops, and they'll appear all over the map, and I'll need to move them to some sort of mustering place. And clicking through all the units and moving them all would be pretty boring for you guys, so I'll do all that stuff off screen. Okay, so you saw these guys move. So they're dispersing. Some of them haven't reached their destination yet. You see Mr. Blinker here is still on his way. So this is the beginning of turn 3, and I'll end this video here. So thanks for listening, and I hope you come back for part 3, where some more exciting things happen.